Tensions between nations often leave deep scars, but sometimes healing comes from unexpected places. Jacob Persley is a missionary from Arkansas who has been working with the Turks, the Kurds, and the Armenians since 2008.
The first challenge that I faced was when I first started coming here, and I started visiting from Turkey to Armenia, and I realized that the Armenians did not know that a Turkish and Kurdish Muslim could convert to Christianity. Because of the Armenian genocide, there's a lot of animosity still and hatred and unforgiveness, obviously, in the hearts of an Armenian towards a Turk or a Kurd, Muslim specifically, because of what they did to their relatives, and I understand that. And so when I first came here, coming from Turkey, I'm like, we have Turkish churches and there's Turkish converts. And actually there are Turkish pastors. People are like, a Turk can never become a Christian. That's impossible. And then I began to interact with the Turkish and the Armenian Christian community, bringing them together for reconciliation. The Turks were confessing the Armenian genocide. And from 2008 until 2014, after many trips and connecting the two churches, I've seen a huge change. That was the first obstacle, is that first they couldn't believe it. Two, they would thought if we go to Turkey, they would kill us. And now I've seen Armenians say, oh, let's go to Turkey and let's tell them about Jesus, convert them to Christianity and start new churches. So that's a huge change that was an obstacle, but over a long period of time has completely changed. That's one. Second one is when I first came here to live, we were really wanting to inspire people to use their Christian faith and the freedoms they have in Armenia to reach out to the Muslim neighbors. And this is something that can only be found in Christianity. You cannot force somebody to reconcile. When somebody kills somebody else and their family wipes them out, tries to commit a genocide against them, and for those people to forgive the perpetrators is a miracle. Atheism doesn't do that. Islam doesn't do that. Only Christianity does that because we've been reconciled to God through the death of Jesus Christ. And while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Why we're the enemies of God, right? So this is a Christian concept. And so what I've seen is that for Turkish people and Kurdish people, it is a shame to say you've done something wrong, especially something as horrible as a genocide. And when you know what happened to the Armenians and the Syriacs and the Greeks and how they were tortured and massacred, and then now you have these great-grandchildren of the perpetrators. They become Christians and they're like, oh my goodness, what did my great-grandfathers did? I can't believe we did this. And these were to Christians, and these Christians are my brothers and sisters, and then my own family wiped them out. So to be able for a Turk to come to an Armenian and say, please forgive my fathers. They didn't know what they were doing. It's like Jesus on the cross. God, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They're saying, please forgive us. They didn't know what they're doing. And we're Christians now, and we love Jesus now. We have the same God, the same Bible. Let's worship together. Let's work together. So for them, it's very hard. It's intimidating because they're like, will they even be able to accept me because of the evil that I've done? Now on the Armenian side, I've seen it where they were wiped out. And most of my Armenian friends, they had one relative that was left alive. And that's where their generations have come from. So they're like, the idea of a Turk is that's the enemy, with blood on their hands. And so then they see a Turk and they're like, all of those feelings come up. And they're like, that's the enemy. That's the one that killed our family. We know the stories. And so for them to break and say, oh, wait, in Jesus Christ, this is my brother and sister now, it's a big deal. So the Turks, they're saying, look, we're first generation Christians now, and unfortunately there's no Christians in Turkey, so we need you, Armenian Christians, to come back to our lands and be our spiritual mothers and fathers. We were left as orphans, and that was our own doing, unfortunately, so please come back so you can see great reconciliation take place. And that's continuing, and I think that's going to be happening between the Azerbaijani Christians and the Armenian Christians as well. It's just a little fresh wounds because of the war. So in 2020, the Azerbaijanis and the Turks, supported by ISIS and Pakistan, attacked Armenia and Artsakh, native Armenian lands. And so literally in the middle of one of our mission schools for Armenians, in the middle of our classes, this war broke out. It wasn't a war, it was an aggression from the Muslims. The very people that we're praying for that they become Christians, the very people that we want to see new churches where they know who the King of Peace are attacking us. And now our mission students are having to be mobilized to go and defend their land. That's a huge obstacle. It's like, man, and you see Satan's hand in this. It's just trying to stir up people so that they won't know who Jesus is. What I've noticed is we do have Turkish visitors that come to Armenia. And I have been at very many meetings where we have Armenians meet with Azerbaijanis. And just right after the war and the forced exile, if they ever saw a Turk or Armenian sitting at a table together having dinner, and I'm translating and kind of being a go-between, and every single meeting you see the Turks or the Azerbaijanis, and these are Christians, by the way. These are the Christian population saying, we didn't want the war. We didn't want to fight. This is not of us. This is the government. And the Turks realize that. The Azerbaijani Christians know that. They've just got some evil powers above them that are forcing that will on that entire country and the military. So that's what I've seen. And I've seen that Armenian Christians, when they do, that are true born-again believers, they do see that their enemy is not the face of the Turk, the face of the Azeri. It's that evil, dark power that's mentioned in Ephesians 6. It says that's our true enemy. It's satanic forces stirring things up. The Turkish Christians are also persecuted by their government. They're looked at as traitors to the government because they are converts to Christianity, and the Turkish government thinks, oh, now they're against us. And so there's a difference between the Turkish people and the Turkish government. Just like most people, the people in the governments are different. And so that is a difficulty. Not that I'm saying every Turkish church is underground. They are able to establish themselves as like a non-government organization or a society. But there are a lot of social pressure and persecution. There are martyrs. I have two people that I know that I worked with that were killed for their faith, Necati and Uğur. One was Kurdish, one was Turkish. They were martyred because they were converts in Malatya specifically. But what I see now is we have churches in Van and Iğdır and Kars and places all over Turkey that there hadn't been a church since the genocide. And Armenians are able to now partner with them and help them and encourage them. So you see good partnerships taking place. When Armenians go to Turkey as missionaries, there are threats for them. And it's because of what Jesus said. It says, they will persecute you for my name's sake. And so that can happen. But and it does happen. I know one Armenian that was hurt a little bit. One was actually put in jail for a few days and deported. But now that same Armenian is now a pastor of a Turkish church somewhere else. This is another story. I just can't talk about it. So he didn't give up because he was thrown into jail. He continued to persevere and now is a Armenian pastor of a Turkish church. It's so great. But what's interesting is usually if an Armenian goes to Turkey and they say, I am Armenian, I am Christian, people are like, oh, wow, we're the same. They have this shared culture, shared history, shared food, shared dances, music, all of these things. And they're accepted easier than, like, say, a Western missionary. You got somebody coming from Korea or Germany or America or Canada. It's a lot of cultural hoops you have to go through. But for an Armenian, it's like, oh yeah, these are our lands, and we've all lived together for thousands of years, not in peace and harmony, but they did. So it's easier for them to adapt and build relationships with the people than it would be for a Western missionary. So Georgia is an interesting country because in Georgia there are Muslim majority regions, and in those Muslim majority regions there are no missionaries or churches yet. So we are also sending people doing missions work and evangelistic teams to go into those Muslim majority areas of Georgia. And also we've got Iran to the south. This is the only border crossing from Armenia into Iran. And so Iranians come up to Armenia. We just had thousands come up for Nowruz, it's the Persian New Year, and we're doing evangelism. I think last Sunday I saw 8 professions of faith, and then tomorrow we're baptizing 3. So a lot of people from Iran becoming Christians, and they come up here because it's a free democratic nation and they can make that choice here. If they do that in Iran, it's persecution. Iran is a Islamic nation. It's ruled by Islam, Sharia law. And under Sharia law, if you convert from Islam to Christianity, it's capital punishment, which equals death. And you're not even allowed to have a Bible in the Persian language. So in spite of that, I think the people are so disgusted with the God of Islam, because they're like, if this is the God that created everything and this is the only God, then we're going to be atheists. So I call them atheists from a Muslim background. They're not rejecting the biblical Christian God, they're rejecting the Islamic God. So I see this growing of Islamic atheism happening. And then when they hear about Christianity, they're like, oh, wait, if that's an option and that's really God, that's a good God that loves, that sent his son to die a sacrifice, we don't have to die for God. God dies for us. Wow, it's the opposite, right? That's why we see millions of converts, and it could be up to 2 million now. It's the fastest growing Christian nation in the world. It looks like that things are being set up for Iran to have an internal collapse in the government. And if that does happen, maybe it's through outside pressures, maybe it's through Israel and the United States. I don't know those things. But if it does, then the gospel will be freely preached all over Iran. And I know there will be millions and millions of converts at that time. It's like when the Soviet Union opened up, that was the perfect time to go in. When Iran falls, that's the perfect time to come in with the gospel. And so we're going to be very busy at that time. And I think that will be very soon. For Azerbaijan, Christianity is growing there as well. That could be a surprise if there's an Armenian watching, because there's at least 200,000 Christians there now. That's growing. And the more Christians, the better it is for Armenia, because they have the same Bible and values. They just have to live under an oppressive regime.
It's not easy. There's history, conflict, and loss. But the journey towards reconciliation is happening. One conversation, one shared meal, one prayer at a time.